She said, "If you ask for a DNA test, I'm done with you." I replied, "I get it." I didn't argue. I didn't ask again. At her baby shower, when I handed her a small envelope instead of a gift, she knew instantly why I'd stayed quiet for weeks. I'm 35 years old, and I've been with my girlfriend for almost 6 years. We weren't married, but we'd talked about it plenty of times. We lived together for 4 years in a nice apartment, had our routines down, knew each other's families, all that. She was my person, or at least I thought she was. We'd discussed having kids eventually, though neither of us was in a rush. So when she told me she was pregnant about 7 months ago, I'll admit my first reaction was surprise, but then genuine happiness. Unexpected, but not unwanted, except something felt off from the beginning, not with the pregnancy itself, but with her. She was different, distant, defensive about things that shouldn't have required defense, and the timeline didn't quite add up in my head, though I couldn't put my finger on exactly why. About a month after she told me, I was doing laundry and found a receipt in her jeans pocket. It was from a hotel about 40 minutes away, dated from 3 months before she told me she was pregnant. I recognized the name of the hotel because a buddy of mine had his bachelor party there the year before. It wasn't the kind of place you just grab coffee at. It was the kind of place you book a room. I stared at that receipt for probably 10 minutes straight, trying to come up with an innocent explanation. Maybe she'd met a girlfriend there for lunch at their restaurant. Maybe she'd attended some event. Maybe it was old from before we were together, and she'd just forgotten it in her pocket. But the date stamp didn't lie, and my gut was telling me something I didn't want to hear. I didn't confront her right away. I watched. I paid attention. Over the next few weeks, I noticed things. Her phone was always face down now, when it never had been before. She'd angle herself away from me when she texted. She'd started going on more girls' nights and coming home later than usual. There was cologne on her clothes sometimes that definitely wasn't mine. I didn't even wear cologne. The pregnancy progressed. She had morning sickness, doctor's appointments, all the normal stuff. I went with her to most of the appointments, held her hand during the ultrasound, saw our baby on the screen for the first time. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. Something was wrong, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Around the 4-month mark of her pregnancy, we were having dinner at home. She was in a good mood, talking about nursery colors and baby names. I was pushing food around my plate, not really eating. Finally, I just said it. "I want to do a paternity test when the baby's born." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. She stopped mid-sentence, fork halfway to her mouth, and just stared at me. "What did you just say?" "I want a paternity test, just to be sure." "Sure of what?" Her voice had gone cold, ice cold. "Sure that the baby is mine." She put her fork down with a clatter. "Are you seriously accusing me of cheating on you?" "I'm not accusing you of anything. I just think it's smart to—" "Smart? It's insulting. It's degrading. It means you don't trust me. It's not about trust. It's exactly about trust." She stood up from the table. "If you trusted me, you wouldn't need a test. The fact that you're even asking means you think I've been unfaithful. I found a hotel receipt in your pocket from a few months ago." Her face went pale for just a second, then flushed red. "You went through my pockets?" "I was doing laundry. It fell out." "That's none of your business." "A hotel receipt is none of my business? When you're my girlfriend and supposedly pregnant with my child?" "I went there for a work thing, if you must know. A conference." "You never mentioned a conference." "I don't have to report every single thing I do to you. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're being controlling and paranoid." "I'm being reasonable. If there's nothing to hide, then what's the problem with a test?" She crossed her arms over her chest. Her eyes were hard, angry in a way I'd never seen before. "Here's the problem. If you ask for a DNA test, I'm done with you. Completely done. I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't trust me, who thinks I'm capable of that kind of betrayal. So you need to decide right now what matters more to you, this relationship and this baby, or your paranoid suspicions. I sat there, stunned. That's an ultimatum. Call it whatever you want, but that's how it is. You either trust me or you don't, and if you don't, then there's no point in us being together. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw the calculation in her eyes, the way she was cornering me, forcing me to choose between my doubts and our relationship. A reasonable person, an innocent person, would have understood why I had concerns, and would have agreed to the test just to put my mind at ease. But she wasn't doing that. She was threatening me. I get it, I said quietly. So you're dropping this? I understand what you're saying. She seemed to relax slightly. Good, because I can't deal with this kind of stress right now. It's not good for the baby. I nodded, went back to my dinner, didn't say another word about it. But I hadn't agreed to anything. I just acknowledged that I understood her position. There's a difference. Over the next few weeks, I didn't bring it up again. I played the part of the supportive partner, went to appointments, rubbed her feet when they were sore, assembled baby furniture, attended the parenting classes she signed us up for, but I was also gathering information. I hired a private investigator, not cheap, but worth it. I needed to know if my suspicions were founded or if I was just being paranoid, like she claimed. Within 2 weeks, the investigator came back with photos. Her, meeting with a guy at a coffee shop. The two of them in a parking lot, her car next to his, talking through their windows. Nothing definitively damning in those photos, but enough to confirm she was regularly meeting with someone. Then the investigator got better photos. The two of them at that same hotel from the receipt. Him opening a car door for her. The two of them walking into the lobby together. Check-in time stamped on the investigator's report. 3 months before she told me she was pregnant. Check out, the next morning. I had him keep digging. Turned out this guy was someone from her old job, before she'd switched companies 2 years ago. They'd kept in touch, apparently. Very much in touch. The investigator also found out that this guy was married, 3 kids, lived in the suburbs about an hour away. When I saw his photo clearly for the first time, my stomach dropped. The baby's ultrasound pictures were hanging on our refrigerator. Even in grainy black and white, there was something about the shape of the nose, the spacing of the features, that looked nothing like me and a lot like him. I didn't say a word to her about any of this. I kept playing my part. Supportive boyfriend, excited almost father. I even helped her plan the baby shower that her mother and sister were throwing for her. They'd asked me to handle some of the logistics, which I did. Ordered the cake, helped with the venue rental, put together a playlist of music. The shower was scheduled for when she was about 7 months along. Big event, 50 guests. Her whole family, all her friends, co-workers, people from our building. Everyone was excited for us, congratulating us, asking if we were planning to get married soon now that the baby was coming. I smiled through it all. Said we were taking things one step at a time, rubbed her back when she said her feet hurt, fetched her drinks and snacks. Perfect partner. The gifts were piled on a table near the front of the venue. Diapers, onesies, blankets, a stroller, a car seat, everything you could imagine. I'd gotten her something too, but I didn't put it on the table. I kept it with me. About an hour into the shower, after she'd opened most of the gifts and everyone was eating cake, I approached her where she was sitting in the guest of honor chair, surrounded by wrapping paper and bows. "I have something for you," I said. She smiled, that glowing pregnant woman smile. "You already helped pay for all of this." "I know, but I wanted to give you something more personal." I handed her a small envelope. Not a card, just a plain, white envelope with something folded inside. Her smile faltered slightly. "What is this?" "Open it." She looked at me, then at the envelope, then back at me. Something in my expression must have registered because the color started draining from her face. She opened the envelope slowly, pulled out the folded papers inside. The top page was a DNA test requisition form. already filled out with her information and mine. All it needed was her signature and the baby's sample after birth. Underneath that were the photographs. Her and him at the hotel, her and him in the parking lot, her and him at the coffee shop, timestamps on every single one. Her hands started shaking, the papers fluttered. She looked up at me, and I saw pure panic in her eyes. "What is this?" she whispered. The room around us was still buzzing with conversation, people laughing and eating cake and admiring baby gifts. No one was paying attention to us yet. "I think you know what it is," I said calmly. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? You had me followed?" Her voice was getting louder. A few people near us started glancing over. "You gave me an ultimatum. You said if I asked for a DNA test, you were done with me, so I didn't ask again. But I never said I didn't want one. You can't do this. You can't just—" She was standing now, the photos and form clutched in her shaking hands. "Can't what? Find out the truth? Make sure the baby I'm about to raise is actually mine? You're the one who made this complicated. All you had to do was agree to the test when I first asked. Instead, you threatened me. This is my baby shower." Her voice was definitely loud enough now that conversations around us were stopping. People were turning to look. "I know. Great timing, right?" Her mother was approaching, looking concerned. "Honey, what's wrong?" My girlfriend looked at her mother, then at me, then at the photos in her hands. I watched her trying to figure out how to spin this, how to make herself the victim. But there was no spin. Not with those photos, not with the evidence right there in black and white. "He's accusing me of cheating," she said, her voice breaking. "He's ruining my baby shower with his paranoid accusations." Her mother's face hardened as she looked at me. "Is this true?" "Yes," I said, "because she has been cheating, for months, possibly longer." "That's not true," my girlfriend shouted. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, pulled up the investigator's full report, which included dates, times, locations, everything. Handed the phone to her mother. "I hired a private investigator 6 weeks ago. That's his report. Multiple meetings with the same man over the course of several months, including overnight stays at a hotel 3 months before she told me she was pregnant." Her mother scrolled through the report, her face getting paler with each swipe. Other people were gathering around now, sensing drama, trying to figure out what was happening. "This doesn't prove anything," my girlfriend said desperately. "I can explain all of this." "Then explain it," I said. "Explain why you were meeting with your ex-coworker in secret. Explain why you spent the night with him at a hotel. Explain why the timing lines up perfectly with when you got pregnant." She was crying now, mascara running down her face. But I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret. Just this cold, calm certainty that I was doing the right thing. "He's just a friend," she sobbed. "We're just friends. Friends don't spend the night together at hotels." Nothing happened. "Then take the test. Sign that form right now. Agree to a paternity test when the baby's born. If I'm wrong, if the baby is mine, I'll apologize in front of everyone here. I'll do whatever you want to make it up to you. But if you're so sure nothing happened, then there's no reason not to take the test." She stared at me, trapped. If she refused again, it would be as good as an admission. If she agreed, she knew what the results would show. "I'm not taking any test," she said finally. "And I'm not doing this here. Everyone needs to leave. This shower is over." Her mother was still holding my phone, still looking at the report. She looked at her daughter with this expression of profound disappointment. "Did you do this? Did you cheat on him? Mom, please, answer me. Did you sleep with this man?" The silence stretched out. My girlfriend looked around at all the faces staring at her, waiting for an answer. Her sister, her friends, her co-workers, people from our building, everyone who'd come to celebrate her pregnancy. "It was one mistake," she whispered. "One time. I was confused and scared about the relationship, and he was there, and it just happened." The room erupted. Her mother stepped back like she'd been slapped. Her sister started crying. Friends were whispering to each other, shocked. I just stood there, vindicated, but not victorious. Because hearing her admit it didn't feel good. It felt empty. So the baby might not be mine, I said. She couldn't look at me. I don't know. But you were going to let me raise it anyway. Let me believe it was mine. Let me pay for everything. Be there for everything, never knowing the truth. I thought it was yours. The timing lined up more with us than with him. But you don't know, and you were never going to tell me. She had no answer for that. I took my phone back from her mother. I'm leaving. I'll come by the apartment tomorrow to get my things. I'm moving out. You can keep the place if you want, but I'm off the lease as of next month. I already talked to the landlord. You can't just leave me, she screamed. I'm pregnant. With a baby that might not be mine. You made it very clear that if I wanted a paternity test, we were done. Well, I want a paternity test, so I guess we're done. Her mother was crying now, too. How could you do this to him? To us? To your own baby? I didn't mean for any of this to happen, my girlfriend sobbed. But it did happen, I said. And you were fine letting me live in ignorance forever. The only reason we're having this conversation is because I didn't take your ultimatum at face value. I found out the truth on my own. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces, at the pile of baby gifts, at the cake and decorations. I'm sorry for disrupting the party, but I think everyone deserves to know the truth about what's really going on. I walked out, got in my car, drove back to our apartment, started packing. She came home about 2 hours later, her mother with her. They tried to talk to me, tried to convince me to stay, tried to say we could work it out. Her mother even offered to pay for a paternity test right away, not wait until the baby was born. Apparently, there were prenatal tests that could be done safely. I agreed to the prenatal test. Why not? I needed to know. We went to a clinic the next week. They took blood from her, sent it off for analysis along with my DNA sample. We didn't speak during the appointment, just sat in separate chairs in the waiting room, not looking at each other. The results took 2 weeks. The clinic called me first since I'd paid for the test. The baby wasn't mine. 99.9% certainty that I was not the father. I called her and told her. She cried, apologized, begged me to reconsider, said we could still make it work, said she loved me. I told her I was done, that I'd already moved out, found a new place, started separating our finances, that I hoped things worked out for her and the baby, but it wasn't my problem anymore. She called and texted for weeks. So did her mother, her sister, even some of her friends, all saying the same things, that I was abandoning her when she needed me most, that I should be more forgiving, that everyone makes mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake, it was a choice, multiple choices, over multiple months, and then a decision to hide it from me, to let me believe the baby was mine, to build a life on a foundation of lies. I heard through mutual friends that she reached out to the guy, the actual father, told him about the baby. He wanted nothing to do with it. Apparently his wife had found out about the affair around the same time as the baby shower incident. Someone who was at the shower knew someone in his circle and word traveled. His wife filed for divorce. He was losing his family and wasn't interested in gaining a new one with a woman he'd cheated with. So she was alone, single and pregnant with a baby that neither the biological father nor the man she'd tried to trick into fatherhood wanted anything to do with. Her mother stepped up, thankfully, moved in with her to help with the baby after it was born. I never met the kid, never saw pictures, never asked. It wasn't mine, not my responsibility. The whole experience taught me a lot about trust, about ultimatums, about how people show you who they really are when they're backed into a corner. An innocent person, when asked for a paternity test, might be hurt or offended, but ultimately they'd agree because they'd have nothing to hide. A guilty person threatens and manipulates and tries to make you feel bad for even asking. The envelope I handed her at that baby shower contained the truth she'd been trying to hide for months. and watching her hands shake as she opened it, watching the realization hit her that I'd known all along, that I'd been quietly gathering evidence while playing the supportive partner. That was the moment she understood that actions have consequences. She'd tried to make me choose between my doubts and our relationship. So I chose my doubts, and it turned out my doubts were right. People ask me sometimes if I feel bad about how it went down, about confronting her at the baby shower in front of everyone. Honestly, no. She'd spent months lying to me, planning a future where I'd raise another man's child without knowing it, and she would have gotten away with it if I'd just accepted her ultimatum. She'd counted on me being too afraid of losing her to push for the truth. But I wasn't afraid. I was patient,